it. I have a request from my student. He's asking where he can get that Hardstyle Kick ringtone. It's down in the description box. Just fill in your email and you'll get a link to the free ringtone. There are two formats. One is for the iPhone M4R format and MP3 format, which is for Android users. First of all, we want to design a Hardstyle Kick in Serum 2. Throw in Serum. In Serum 2 wavetable analog 808 kick. Set the random knob to 0, phase to 0. For now, we need 3 LFOs. LFO 1, LFO 2, and LFO 3. Make a shape something like this. Something like this, halfway there. Alright. And make sure all these 3 LFOs are set to envelope mode. Envelope trigger mode. Envelope trigger mode. Now we want to assign macro knob 1 to the y-axis for all of these 3 LFOs. LFO 2 y-axis and LFO 1 y-axis. So basically it's 1, 2, 3. Now we want to go to the matrix tab, change this from bipolar to unipolar. Rename this as Transient pitch. And now take macro knob 5, assign to LFO 1, this slope here. LFO 2, the same slope here. And LFO 3, the same slope also. And set this from bipolar to unipolar. Change the amount from 50% to negative 50%. All this has to be set to negative 50%. And we'll rename this as curve pitch. Now go back to oscillator tab. I want to set this transient pitch to about 75, curve pitch to 50. Take LFO 1. Assign this to Oscillator A coarse pitch. Hold Option Shift, click this icon here. So it switches from bipolar to unipolar. LFO 2 do the same thing. Assign to the coarse pitch of Oscillator A. Option Shift, click. Same thing for LFO 3. Turn on filter 1. Go to flangers. Choose FLGHL 6+. Set the resonance to 5%, drive it up, something like this, around 33%. Filter 1 variation, crank it up to 10%. Assign LFO 1 to filter 1's cutoff. Change this to unipolar, about 40%. And now go to the mixer tab, filter 1, set this to bass 1, crank it up to the far right. Now we'll go to the effects tab. Go to Boss 1. Boss 1 is responsible for the synthesis of the punch. If you don't know what's a Hardstyle Kick punch, you know, that's the one. I actually have a template for designing Hardstyle Kick. Effects goes like this. Distortion, equalizer, distortion, equalizer, and distortion. 3 distortions. So the first distortion, it will be asymmetry. Second distortion is tube. The third distortion is my go-to distortion, my favorite distortion, overdrive. A very powerful overdrive, which will heat up your CPU. For the punch, I would like this punch to be a very high resonance punch. We'll set this frequency to 1200 Hz. Crank it up. Next, choose this band EQ. Set this to about 40. Set the frequency to 1200. You can change this frequency also, but it depends. If you're going for the pre, yes, this frequency makes sense. If not, then we just leave it as it is. But for the sake of this template, I'm just going to set it all to 1200 Hz. Changing from this off to pre, then this distortion frequency makes sense. If we turn it off, this doesn't make any sense, all right? And also the same thing, crank this tube to the far right. This, set it to the EQ type H peak. Q factor, set it to 40, frequency 1200 Hz. And the third distortion, I would like to go stack 6, crank it up also. You can fine tweak later. As a template, set it to 1200. Alright, so now the equalizer gain, will assign macro knob 2 to the gain of this equalizer. Set it to 50%. So macro knob will be responsible for the gain of these 2 EQs. Change from bipolar to unipolar, set it to 50%. Rename macro 2 as EQ gain. Okay, whatever. We just rename it as EQ gain and we can crank it up. That's the thing that we want here. And we'll assign macro 6 to the frequency so we can fine tweak later, make it bipolar. Set it to 10%. That's a good range. And same goes for the first EQ. Bipolar, about 10%. And we'll rename macro knob 6S EQ frequency. We can tweak it later. Alright, now we'll take LFO4, change this rate to 8 notes, assign LFO4 to the first EQ's frequency, change it to bipolar, range somewhere around 5%, LFO4 to the second EQ frequency, set it to bipolar, also about 5 to 6%. Alright, next you'll want to add in a utility. Utility mono bass frequency under 150 Hz. Crank this down, assign LFO5 to this thing here. Set it to 50%. And make a shape something like this for LFO5. And make sure LFO5 is set to envelope mode. And beyond that, there's a sine wave. That is something that we want to turn off. We'll go back to the Oscillator tab, crank this level down, take LFO5, assign it to Oscillator A's level. Set it to 75%. Alright. In terms of sound designing, if you know my style, I always add in an EQ and also a tuner, depends. But for now, I'll add in an EQ and tuner. I think I will make this a little bit smaller. EQ. We want to resample this punch because later we'll blend in the punch and crunch together, and we want to have a visual representation of the punch and crunch to make sure that the punch and crunch doesn't cancel out each other. That's called phasing issue. We'll monitor phasing issue later. That's why we want to resample the punch first. I'll delete this MIDI track here. Now track number 2 will be the resampling of track 1. So go to resample, solo track 1, record from track 2. Since we are using MIDI for Serum, insert a MIDI clip, loop 1 bar clip here, Command L, the shortcut key for looping in Ableton Live. We need to draw a MIDI on C1. And now we want to resample function F9. We'll rename track 2 as punch. Rename this as punch. We'll fine tweak the punch. You can boost up more resonance. Okay, so after fine tweaking, I think this is good. Okay, we'll resample it again. Now we want to design the crunch. We'll take Oscillator B as the crunch. So we'll have to turn off Oscillator A, turn on Oscillator B. Just copy Oscillator A, paste it to Oscillator B. And turn on Oscillator B. Turn off filter 1, turn on filter number 2. Remember to click on this B. That means route Oscillator B to this filter 2. And we'll change this to a bandpass 24. Mix goes to about 70-ish. Crank up the drive. Now move on to the mixer. Now we want to send the sound from filter 2 to bus 2. And now bus 2 will go through the same processing, distortion, EQ, distortion, EQ, distortion, the same template, the template that I gave you guys earlier. We just copy that from bus 1 to paste it to bus 2. That thing will be the crunch. I'm not sure if this is a Serum 2 bug issue or what. This is my experience. If right now I were to copy bus 1, this effect here, and paste it to bus 2, I will lose all of the settings. To prevent this, I always have a safety precaution. I would like to save this preset first. Just like 1, save. Copy bus 1 effect, paste it to bus 2. Now we have all of these effects. And make sure this utility fader here, put it back to 0. A lot of times I just forgot to turn on this fader. Now we want to focus on the crunch. Change the frequency to 660 Hz. Everything is the same, but just change the frequency of these 2 EQs, 660 Hz. And we'll also need to assign macro knob number 3 to the frequency of EQ1. Set it to bipolar, set it to maybe 15%. Okay, 15% is cool. Same goes for the second EQ frequency. Bipolar, about 15%. Next, we'll rename macro 3 as crunch EQ frequency. This is for the crunch. Earlier that was for the punch. Now we'll take macro 7, assign to the gain of EQ1. Set it to unipolar, 50%. Also the same, macro 7 to the second EQ gain. Change to unipolar, set this to about 50%. Rename this as crunch EQ gain. So now we have to crank up the volume. We want to design the crunch. So that's the crunch right now. We need to crank up the gain. Now we want to work on the frequency. 20% is nice. Just make sure it's not clipping. When I design Hardstyle Kick, I don't want this to clip. The second equalizer goes to -6 dB. The first one maybe -3 dB. Okay, all good. We also want to make movement for the crunch. Take LFO4, assign this to the first EQ of this crunch. Change it to bipolar, set the range to about 5 to 10%, 7% for this case. Change this to bipolar, 7%. I think it's too much. Lower down to 5%, 4 to 5%. Now we'll take LFO6, make a shape something like this. Make sure you don't go to the end, just leave a little bit space here. Make a shape something like this. We can side reference this one. This is a punch, this is a crunch. When the punch closes, the crunch open. Now we want to crank this fader down to 0. LFO6 to this fader. Set this to 50%. Turn on this envelope mode here. The buzzing behind that's because Oscillator B, the volume, is not controlled by LFO6. So we also need to crank this level down, assign LFO6 to Oscillator B's level, set this to 75%. And now we can resample the crunch. So when the punch closes, the crunch, it opens. Rename track number 3 as crunch. Rename this clip as crunch. Just solo these 2 tracks. I think the punch is a little bit long. We want to shorten this. By the way, I'm on the LFO of the punch. Make something like this. LFO6, maybe like this. Now we want to export these 2 oscillators individually to check the phasing issue. Resample the punch again. Go back to the Serum 2, turn off Oscillator A and filter 1, turn on Oscillator B and filter 2. Now let's resample the crunch. No big issues here. I'll just save this preset again. You also can get this preset for free. I've designed over 20 presets in Serum 2. You guys can go get it for free. Just fill in your email. That email is used for my future marketing. I promise no spams. You can unsubscribe from the mailing list anytime. Just help me out. So get back to the video. The punch, the crunch, and now this punch and crunch will go to the main here. And the main effects will be the reverb, the delay. For me, I would like to keep things simple. For the sake of this tutorial, I just keep the reverb as plate reverb, low, crank it up to about 40-ish, size, width, damp, mix, crank it down, delay, ping pong, set this to 8 notes, triplet, Q factor down to 1.2, this mix knob down to 0. Okay, now go to LFO7, envelope mode, change this rate to 2 bars. Let's try 2 bars first. Make a shape something like this. Assign LFO7 to the mix knob here, set it to 50%, and same goes for the delay, about 50%. Now assign macro knob 4 to this mix knob and macro 4 to this mix knob. Go to the matrix tab, change this amount to -50% and this to -50%. Rename this as dryness. To lower the reverb and delay, just crank it up. More dryness in there. Insert another audio track and resample the entire thing. Okay, since we are exporting it as an MP3, usually people say for the limiter you want to set the ceiling to -1 dB, but since this Hardstyle Kick is already distorted, I don't think there is a point of going -1 dB. For me, I'll just go -0.5 dB, crank this to 2, not over limiting. Okay, so it's a C key. From this stage onwards, I'll teach you how to export this file as a compatible format for Android and iPhone. Android is very simple. Just export it as MP3. Highlight this track. Command-Shift-R. MP3 is on. Export it as Ringtone Hardstyle Kick tutorial and C key. Okay, so if you're an Android user, you can just take this format and save it to your phone. iPhone user, things can get a little bit tricky. So for that case, airdrop this MP3 onto your iPhone. So I have to airdrop this to my iPhone.
Make sure you download GarageBand on your iPhone. Click on the plus icon on the top right. From the list, choose Audio Recorder. Click on the track icon on the top left. Now click here. Go to File tab. Browse the item from the File app. Choose your desired ringtone. Tap and hold your chosen file. Drag it onto the first track. Click on the arrow icon at the top left. Tap My Songs. Tap and hold the newly exported file and tap Share. Choose Ringtones. rename the file and export. Now you can either choose Use Sound As and select a ringtone destination, or search for Sound and Haptics, choose a ringtone destination and look for your newly exported ringtone.
I'm back! That's the way how you design Hardstyle Kick in Serum 2, albeit my way is different from other YouTubers. The ringtone is also free down in the description box. Hope this helps. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.